My warmest thanks to the Corporate Council on Africa for choosing Morocco and the beautiful city of Marrakesh to hold this important forum that gathers all American and African stakeholders around a stronger, win-win and renovated US-Africa economic trade partnership. Referring to the elegant topic given to this edition, building forward together, makes perfect sense considering the challenging global context. Joining our forces through dialogue and cooperation is indeed essential to our representative countries' growth and prosperity. But also to face uncertainty, it is actually the only way to have visibility. Ladies and gentlemen, it goes without saying that the COVID-19 took its toll on the world economy and the African economy was not spared. The pandemic generated the deepest global recession in decades, despite the tremendous effort of governments to counter the shock. I would like to seize this opportunity to commend the strong held cooperation between African countries and the US support in the fight against COVID-19. This sense of solidarity should be reconfirmed now in the economic field. While the world is yet to fully recover from the socio-economic impact of the pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine conflict brought other major economic trends and an unprecedented rise of inflation under the pressure of food, energy, and major commodity prices. According to the World Bank, global growth is expected to fall from 5.7% in 2021 to 2.9% in 2022, significantly lower than 4.1% that was anticipated in January. This situation could be a major threat to the effort undertaken by developed countries like the USA to build a resilient economic recovery and to relocate value chains. It could also compromise the outstanding progress made by the African continent in the last 2 decades. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the best time to provide that is now. If there are still doubts and questions about Africa's and Africans' ability to be at the center of the recovery dynamic, and the new industrial value chain, I will try to answer them with facts. Enabled by quick technological change and demographic transition, the continent enjoys a huge business potential that unfortunately remains underestimated. 1 in 4 citizens of the world will be African by 2050, representing a buying force of 2.5 billion consumers. Half of this population will be under 25 and very well connected. It is indeed a huge opportunity, but also a big challenge that we can only address by creating more and more jobs. The continent has also a large quantity of natural resources with an important potential of local transformation. These assets make Africa not only very competitive, but the continent of the future. Especially if you take into consideration the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade, which provide immediately access to a market of 1.2 billion consumers. This free trade area will connect African market, knowing that trade between African countries only represents 16% of Africa's export trade. It will also accelerate the construction of new complementary industrial ecosystem linked to global value chains. Speaking about value chains, I believe that we should operate a shift in paradigm in identifying the right complementaries between African countries as well as between the United States and Africa, and start thinking beyond the made in Africa to build together the made with Africa. This dimension needs to be largely discussed. We will make sure to address We will make sure to address it in detail this afternoon during the roundtable organized by CGEM. Ladies and gentlemen, building forward together means looking in the same direction and sharing the same ambitions. Fair trade, free competition, more innovation for an inclusive and sustainable growth. Building forward together means also doing more business together under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. Morocco was a pioneer in believing and investing in Africa in multiple sectors: banking, insurance, infrastructure, real estate, energy, agriculture, with local actors and partners. Along with the public sector, private companies have indeed an essential role to play in solving Africa's biggest challenge, such as energy, food security, education, digital transformation, and health. Moroccan companies are ready to work hand in hand with American and African partners in order to accelerate this dynamic. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, energy is a crossroad of all sectors, and it is essential to building Africa's value chain. The continent has abundant renewable sources such as hydropower, wind, and solar that can be turned into a very competitive and green energy to cover the continent's need, but also to be exported. It is a huge opportunity to seize. On the other hand, empowering Africa in terms of food security is essential. It mainly starts with increasing agricultural productivity, transforming the raw product locally for higher added value creation, reducing barrier to trade, boosting competitiveness of agricultural businesses, and expanding the availability of agriculture and water technologies. The presence of leading countries